Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for registering for this event and thank you for joining now. It is exactly 6 o'clock and we will be starting the session now. So I know there are a few members who would be joining us soon. So during the time, before they join, we would be finishing a few important things in the beginning. So uh, let me start this session today, which is basically on redefining assessments, strategies for meaningful and inclusive learning evaluation. So I am Amjad Razal. I work as a head of research and programs at Keystone Center for Innovation and Teacher Education. So this particular organization is in Hyderabad, and we regularly conduct this type of webinars on every Saturday. So I know there are some people who are joining for the second time, third time, or maybe the fourth or fifth time. And I know there are some people who are joining this webinar for the first time. So this is your first learning experience with us. And I hope and believe till the end of the session, you would be with us and I would try my level best to offer amazing insights that we promised in the caption and also in the post. So before I start the session, I would also request the members who we have right now. Please introduce yourself. Please mention your name, the name of the organization you work for, and the location you're joining us from. You can use a chat to type the message and let us know. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Sandeep, for joining our webinars for the third time. And I know there are other people also who joined us for the second, third, fourth, maybe fifth time. And I'm proud and happy to say this particular webinar is our eighth webinar in our series for enhancing teaching learning practices and helping the teachers. So thank you so much, Ms. Sarita Yadav, for saying that. Very useful session. I attended all four webinars. And you are from Bal Bharati Public School, Nishatpura. Thank you and welcome to the session. I request other members to please use the chat, write your full name, the name of the organization, name of the school you work for, and the location you're joining us from. As soon as we have a few introductions, we'll move to the session. Okay, Miss Kiran from Indo-British School, Pune. Fifth webinar. Thank you so much, Miss Kiran, for joining us again and again. I believe our webinars are helping you and giving you some strategies, some insights, some perspectives, so that you can try in your classes and see some results. And we have Rita Suresh from Capital Public School from Bangalore, third time. Thank you so much for joining us for the third time and welcome to the session. Dr. Rajesh Singh, third time, the Central School, Dubai. Thank you, Mr. Rajesh, for joining us for the third time. Tuja Udavan, Podar International School. Okay, thank you and welcome to the session. How many members do we have? We have 11 members. I need the introduction from all the members. First time you're joining, Miss Jayanti Ramana Vidyalaya CBSE School, Chennai. Thank you and welcome to the session. And I also thank all the members. We sent the feedback link in the community that we have, and many of you have given positive feedback about all these webinars and you have told us in what way these webinars are helping you. So I'm really happy and proud to see that, and thank you so much. It also gives me this motivation to continue whatever we are doing right now and host a number of webinars in the coming weeks and coming months. Khadija Kubra from the Central School, Dubai, first time. Thank you and welcome to the session. I see there are other participants joining right now. Please use the chat to introduce yourself, name of the school, your full name, and the location you're joining us from. As soon as we have like a few more introductions, I will start the session. Ms. Jayanti, since you joined this webinar for the first time, so you may not have received the feedback form, but we will send out to you after this webinar also. Okay. And the members who are using a chat, please send the messages to the group, the meeting group chat, okay? Not directly to me, so that everyone can see your message, read your message, and understand what, we are communicating. So Shiba from, I think this is Bal Bharati Public School, Nishatpura, Bhopal. Thank you and welcome to the session. I definitely want to congratulate especially the teachers from Bal Bharati Public School. The day we started the series of these webinars right from the first webinar. Today is the 8th webinar. So they have been consistently joining our webinars and learning from us, sharing amazing insights with us. Thank you so much, Bal Bharati Public School. I am giving this shout out to you, and I definitely would like to visit the school once, meet everyone in person. So we have Nidhi from CPS Bengaluru. Thank you and welcome to the session. This is Mr. Mahua Roy from Sage International School, Ayodhya Nagar, Bhopal. Thank you and welcome to the session. Jyoti from Capital Public School, Bangalore. Thank you and welcome to the session. Sadaf Zohra from the Central School, Dubai. Thank you and welcome to the session. I think this is 6 Noorjahan from IPC English School. Thank you and welcome to the session. I got good responses from each one of you. Thank you so much for introducing. Now let's start the session. All the other members who are joining now, who joined right now. So we have few announcements to make. Please remember, the people who are joined for the first or the second time, you have to join our WhatsApp community. I will share the link of our community soon. So all the certificates of participation will be shared in the WhatsApp community. Okay, you have received our email notification about this webinar, but the certificates are only sent in the group. So I'll send out the link. You can join our WhatsApp community, be part of our community, where we not only just share the updates of our upcoming webinar, but we also share the recordings, other resources, and try to engage you with the feedback. Let's say feedback, we want to collect from you so that we can learn something from that and make our webinars even better. So another announcement, the people who are joining for the fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, we know that spending this 1 hour every weekend for learning is really a good participation, good contribution from your side, that you are spending this time to learn something from us. So we are thinking, apart from the certificates, for the people who are joining regularly, so to give them some virtual badges. So we will come out with nice name and description. You can use those badges on your in your emails, on LinkedIn, on social media, and all other platforms, to show that this is what your achievement is. So we will be making a particular announcement about that, and we will also show you what type of and kind of badges we are actually looking. So please support us, please participate again and again, so that whatever concern you have, maybe you will find an answer of that particular concern in our webinars also. All right, that's it from my side. All the other people, thank everybody for using the chat and mentioning your name and introducing yourself. Now let's start this particular webinar. So here is basic setting. So what you're going to do is, you are keeping your microphone on mute, and you can use the chat to ask me any question, any clarification that you have. You can also use the hand raise emoji to ask any question you have or any clarification you want from me. Apart from that, if your internet bandwidth is good, you can keep your video on. If it is not so good, you can keep your video off. Okay. And you will be definitely given the opportunity to turn on your microphone and speak. So please utilize that opportunity to ask anything that you like, so we also can interact, because we want to have this kind of like an interactive session. So we talk to you and you talk to us back. Okay, you ask us questions and we answer them. And time will definitely be given for the clarification. So you can use that opportunity also to clarify anything that you want. So today's session is all about redefining assessment. I know this is the time when we are planning, or we may have already conducted assessments at our school, maybe summative assessments or formative assessment in whatever you have at your school right now. So, and I also understand that you have joined this webinar to understand what is the way that you can redefine, redesign the assessment pattern that you have and the students you teach. Okay. After this is what our impact so far. So regularly we have been posting about our webinars, and this is the eighth one today, like I mentioned. So we have crossed these many cities in India, where the teachers who have joined our webinars regularly, and like you can see, there are 30 plus cities we have participation from 7 different countries and 14 Indian states. So I really feel happy whenever I see this type of participation from different places. So we do not have the members only from Hyderabad and only from Bangalore or Chennai, but as you can see on the screen, we have participation from many different places and also the countries. So it also makes us proud to feel that our impact, our message is actually spreading across different places. Thank you so much for believing in us, and also thank you to the people who are joining for the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. Thank you so much. Now, the very basic question, and before I show you something, I have another question. So many of us are in the teaching field, teaching sector for maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Some of us maybe 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, or could be some senior members like 20, 25 plus years. And every year as we teach, we conduct assessments, right? So now the question is, have you ever felt, okay, whenever you conducted some assessment, okay, maybe in a year you have conducted three times assessment. So whenever we conduct an assessment, have you ever thought that maybe I could have used some different strategy, or I was not able to help this particular learner properly with this assessment, or you found that some learner was struggling to answer some of the questions? Okay, so did you have any kind of these thoughts in the past few years, or maybe recently, in this particular year or something like that? If you felt something like that, please mention that in the chat. I will read your answer. This particular thought where you feel I might have not done my best or not given my best, tried my best this time to cater to all types of learners, and because of that maybe I will plan better way in the next session, next examination. If any of, I mean, you can be honest and say, I mean, there are no wrong answers and nobody is here to judge anybody. So please tell me in the chat whether this particular thought has come across your mind and you wanted to plan in a better way next time when you have the assessments, examinations. Please go ahead and use the chat. And if you have not felt, you can also mention no. It's completely fine. We all understand because you're being honest. Yes, because of situation and circumstances never remains the same. I totally agree with that. Yes, many students, when they are unable to solve high order thinking questions correctly, I do feel that. Yes, it happens to all of us. Not everyone learns in the same way. That's absolutely true. Not everyone learns in the same way, and not everyone can participate in the examination, in the assessment in the same way. Yes, during normal classes, at the end of this lesson, I felt this assessment was not up to the mark to the test, to the students' understanding. True. So yes, whoever is saying that, I totally agree with everything you say. As teachers, we feel that this time, because the learners have different needs and I was not able to meet that expectation, and because we care for the learners, sometimes we go back home and we still keep thinking about it. Okay. And let's say in the month of December you are having this examination, so for 15 days, 20 days you finish the exam, and when the results are out, when you look at that, or while you're correcting the papers, you will have this thought, this child has some potential, maybe this child did not understand some particular question. So let's do one thing. Next time when I plan the lesson, I mean this examination, the assessment question paper, so I will plan in a way that everyone can answer them properly. Okay. So as teachers, we have these thoughts over the year. I mean, again and again, we think about it and we try to redefine and redesign the assessment so that everyone can do well in the examination and pass. Not just pass, but they get good scores and learning also. Okay, the first reason that you're seeing on the screen is why do we need to redefine or to redesign the assessment, is we need to move from standardization to personalization. And I'm not just saying this because we have made this particular document just to conduct this webinar, but there have been a lot of research on making the assessments personalized for the learners. Because let's say whatever type of learner I am, if the assessment, the pattern and whatever the teacher does, if that is matching to my expectations and my learning style, so it becomes a very personalized type of assessment. So many people have suggested and said, and there have been a lot of debates on how to transform, how to change from the standardization to personalization. Standardization is when there is only one way to conduct the exam, and pen and paper, that's it. So I feel this is the reason, this is the need why we need to forget that, move away from, keep it away, and then focus more on personalization. Okay. The next thing on your screen is encourage critical thinking and real world application. This is also a challenge when teachers, they teach, they face. Okay. Whatever lessons that we teach, we always try to give real world examples. Okay, where can you use this in real life? Okay, so that they can easily connect. Maybe you must have seen or heard in the news, like a couple of days back, even CBSE has emphasized on real world application and promoting critical thinking. So the reason why we need to redefine the assessment is we need to promote, encourage critical thinking and the real world application. Whatever questions, whatever problems we put in front of the students, that should enable their critical thinking and real world application scenarios. And the third one you are seeing on the screen is address equity and accessibility gaps. So there has been another research on this, where students who are having proper accessibility to the kind of tools we use, let's say these days even many teachers are conducting online assessments, online quizzes, and they use technology to maybe take the printouts or send out something to the learners. But again, there are some students who do not have these facilities. Or the other thing is, some questions, based on the student understanding, some learners can understand them really well. Okay, because they're coming from good families or they understand the language properly. But there are students who are not coming from a very affluent or a very, outspoken kind of family, where they understand every complex word. So the choice of words that we use in the question paper, sometimes it is not understood by the learners. So if that is a problem, what are we going to do so that whenever I plan a lesson and the assessment, how that caters to all types of learners and everybody can answer them properly? So that is another need why we need to redesign the assessment. The next one is incorporate formative feedback for growth. So summative feedback and formative feedback, there are two different kinds of assessment, right? Two different types of assessment. So the first thing is, formative is, supported by the ongoing learning process. Okay, so whatever we teach, immediately we check what the learners are learning, how far they have learned, how well they have learned. So we need to incorporate a lot of formative feedback process. So we all know where the learner is progressing. If the learner is not progressing, not learning something, or having some difficulty in understanding some concepts, we immediately go back, plan something, go to the classroom, teach them as per their understanding capability. Okay, we do not wait for 2 months or 3 months to conduct a summative assessment. Okay, look at the question paper and the way they have answered all the questions, see the marks, and then write the feedback there, and then plan our next term, next 3 months based on that feedback. So if something like that some teacher wants to do, then it is going to be a very long process to make changes in the teaching learning process, the first thing. And the second thing, to help the learners learn properly. So we need to incorporate a lot of formative feedback for the growth. And the next thing is promote holistic development. Everything that you see on the screen, so holistic development is only possible when we provide the assessment pattern, assessment as per the learner's needs and expectations. When we do not do that, there may be some learners who are benefiting from the type of questions we have given, but there are other students who cannot answer the complexity. They don't understand the language, they don't understand anything. So that is another reason why we need to redesign and redefine the assessments. And whatever you see, the 5 reasons on the screen, there are research papers to back every single point, where in the last 100 years, 50 years, many researchers have come across, they conducted research in the on a, at the university level, at the school level, and on different levels, and concluded that we need to have a proper redesigned format of assessment. Okay, after this, the challenges associated with the previous assessment methods. So whatever I said about the standardization or any other thing, the language problem or anything, what are the challenges associated with each? Let's understand that the first one, standardization to personalization, the language and language problem. Let's say you have given a science question paper. So the language that you have used there, the words, the sentences, we need to check whether the learner is understanding that or not. So maybe the learner knows the answer. The student has studied really well at home and came very well prepared for the examination. But the student did not write anything there. So when we want to analyze that, we need to check whether the learner has understood that complex word. So maybe the learner knows the answer is in his mind, but because of the word or some difficult words there, the student is not able to understand that. So it's a comprehension problem which is created by the language that we use. The second thing, complex questions. So in the previous years, yes, all the questions, many questions, the teachers, they tried to make them as complex as possible. But now we need to use simple and easy to understand words so that whatever the question paper is, be it of science, maths, or anything, the students can easily understand them and write the exam. The other challenge that we have been noticing in the standardization process is it is one size fits all pattern where there is one question paper and every type of learner has to answer them. So that is also not going to help the learners in their learning. And apart from one size fits all, there's another problem which is pen and paper. So all the standardized tests, if you see right now also, are pen and paper based. There is nothing as where learners can see something and say, or maybe orally they can answer. Orally is only when there are some certain special cases, but for all the common and general types of students, it's basically pen and paper. That's another problem. Now, with the other thing, encourage critical thinking and real world application. The problem and concern is it is completely based on rote learning, where in science, maths, even in maths, students learn, memorize the steps that you explain to them for solving a problem. So rote learning is very widely used, and it has been observed in the all assessments and examinations that were conducted previously. The other thing, there is lack of skill integration. So assessment, whatever it was conducted in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and the end of the year, it did not have that proper skill that we were supposed to build over the period of time. Let's say from January or maybe from June, you start the academic year, and there are some schools from Dubai. So some schools, start in September, and some as per their country, whatever the norms they have, rules they have. So whenever they start the academic year, one child is going to be there for the whole academic year, right? So from English, math, science, there are skills, the integrated, there are skills behind every lesson that we teach. Okay. So the curriculum developers, they keep that in mind, whatever lesson they design, they write. Okay. There should be some skill development also. So in the previous assessments and examinations, it was noticed that there was lack of skills, and there was no room for creativity, and there was no room for critical thinking. So now, address equity and accessibility gaps. The problem was teacher training. Many teachers were not aware of how to use technology. I can ask a question now. Let's say before 2019 or 2020, even before the lockdown, okay, all the schools, they were having proper norm where the students come to school and the teacher writes everything on the board. The students learn, read everything there, and they go back to their houses. Immediately when there was lockdown and the new academic year started, all the teachers, even though they were not familiar with the technology, but they had no choice but to learn how to use mobile phone, how to use Zoom application, how to use Google Meet, Google Classroom. There were various applications. And I can say before lockdown or before that situation, many of us were not even aware of how many tools we have had that time, right? So maybe we might have heard about Zoom, but maybe we were not aware of Google Meet. Some of us, maybe we were aware of Google Meet, but not Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams or any other application or any other tool that we use to teach. So still there is a lack in teachers understanding, where they need to understand, even from the learner's point of view, what is the problem that they have. So everything comes back to the teachers to know the learners and understand what kind of accessibility and what kind of equity are we maintaining for the learners. So yes, there were lack of tools, and also there was a time constraint. So 2 months you teach, and the examination is only of 2 hours. Okay, please focus on this part only. 2 months we teach some concepts, and we want them to write everything in 2 hours. By saying this, I do not mean to say the examination should be for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. No, because even that time has been, I mean, very significantly decided. 2 hours. This is what we have to allot for the learners, for the students to demonstrate or show their knowledge and information. Okay, but to design or bring some tools and teach learners in a way that they want, so we had a problem there. We were not aware how to use the tools, and that is why to plan something it took a lot of time. So that is why many teachers, many people gave up, and there were lack of facilities also. The other thing that you see is incorporate formative feedback for growth. The challenge associated before that was we did not know how to use the quantifying data to analyze what is working with one student, what is working with the other student, what are the strengths of some students, what are the weaknesses of other students. Okay, weakness and strengths. So even though we teach them for the whole year, but there was no format of formative feedback to understand where we need to improve. Okay, and there were no rubrics used. Very few schools and institutions must have used the rubrics to analyze the performance of the learners, the students. And there was no proper standardization also of the formative feedback. The next part you see is the promoting holistic development. Previously, even teachers, they had very little information on how to make the diversification or differentiation was also a challenge. I'm going to the classroom with this planned lesson and I'm teaching, and I know that there are some students who are struggling, but again, time constraints. How do I call the student personally and teach the student? Okay, do I have that much of time? Because in a week I have 30 periods or maybe 28 periods, and I have some free periods also, and during free periods I have to plan these many things: lesson plan, notebooks correction, writing messages to the parents, and doing the other administrative or clerical work. So based on these challenges, we did not want to spend some more time to understand how we can cater to different types of learners. That was a challenge. So teacher training was a big uh, drawback there that time. Okay, lack of resources. Yes, even if the teachers wanted to do something, the resources were very few. But now there are resources available, and there are websites also. I think many of us know that there is a website called Twinkle or Teachers Pay Teachers, and on Google, when you go and search free resources for science, free resources for maths, for teaching, for lesson planning, for assessment, for everything, even for subjects and the concepts, there are resources available which you can download, make some changes into it, give your learners, students, and see how they are performing. So today we have the technology, and I mean, the resources that we require to teach anything. Even if you are teaching a simple concept, let's say the shapes and objects or the angles. Even if you search resources for shapes and angles on Google, you will find a lot of information. And the lack of tools, yeah, that was another challenge. After this, now I want to tell something about this. I know you definitely must be aware of the formative assessments and the summative assessments, and we all go through a lot of training on how to conduct formative assessments, how to conduct summative assessments. I'm not going in depth about what this is, but basically I have kept this to understand. The next slides are going to connect to this. Okay, and like I said, if you want to redesign the assessments, you're focusing a lot on the formative assessments. And what are the formative assessments? A variety of formative assessments you are going to explore. Maybe you're aware of them already, but Today you are going to relearn them, understand them, so that maybe you can try them in the classes. So formative assessments are something. Okay, I'll show you here. Oh, before that, before I talk about the assessment, the first thing is, whenever you plan the lesson, you need to remember what type of knowledge you are focusing on. Let's say you are teaching science, maths, English, any subject or language. Okay, so there is a book also on Bloom's taxonomy and assessing, evaluating, and providing feedback. So based on the book, we have discovered that there are four types of knowledge, and many of you must have already read this in your B.Ed course, where there are four types of knowledge. The first, factual knowledge, all about facts. Okay. Second thing is a procedural knowledge. It's all about the process. The third one is the conceptual knowledge. It's all about the concepts. Okay, whatever concepts we teach, the concept of evolution and something like that. From science, I've given the example. And the fourth one is metacognitive knowledge. So whatever subject we teach, you can connect that concept. Let's say you are teaching about uh, the historical period of India. Let's say when it actually started, the freedom movement, independence movement, when it started, when it ended. Okay, so who contributed something in India's freedom struggle? All those are facts. It's part of history, but the students are learning the facts. Somebody did this, somebody did that. Okay. Procedural knowledge is all about the process, like how to do something. Conceptual knowledge, like I've given the example, the concept of evolution. And in science and in maths also, these are actually the concepts. Okay, maths, whatever you teach, the statistics or trigonometry, all these are the concepts. To understand those concepts, we have certain situations or problems. So students, they learn those problems, and when they go back in life, let's say when they become adults or maybe work somewhere, that is when they start applying those that particular knowledge. Let's say statistics we have learned in the school. Many of us, maybe we have not used statistics in our life, but you see, whenever you buy anything from the market and you just look at the back, so there is some data in the back. So there you are seeing the ingredients and what portion of that ingredients is added into this particular product. So that is a statistical information. So now if you want to make something, you are also doing the same process. Maybe you are not remembering that I'm using statistical information, but to make something, let's say if you want to cook biryani or something, how much of something you have to add, when you have to add, this is a whole thing there. And metacognition is all about using a set of skills to complete and do a process. So previously, you see, for formative assessments and summative assessments, whatever subjects we teach, how are we connecting our subjects and concepts to formative assessments and summative assessments? So please remember this. Now, after this, we are going to this particular understanding. List of formative assessments. What is the purpose? And please focus on the highlighted part, the learning progress. Okay, to check the learning progress that provides feedback to you as a teacher to improve teaching learning during the instructional process. So formative assessments are all about understanding, checking the learning progress. I'm teaching shapes and angles, or maybe I'm teaching parts of speech. So how well they're understanding, I have to check that progress, how much they have learned, how far, how well they have learned. So for this, what kind of assessments you can conduct? Okay, not necessarily always pen and paper. There are different methods also. So for example, let's say you conduct a lot of classroom activities. Let's say you ask them to give an exit ticket, which is before they finish off and want to go back to their houses, there is some kind of a reflection that they have to write. This is what I have learned today. Okay, so they're writing it. You're seeing, okay, how much the child has described it. Okay, how well the child has described it. Okay, think, parents, share. There's another activity in the classroom which you can do, where you're not doing them and telling them I'm conducting a formative assessment, please participate and do your best. You have given them the task, they are discussing among themselves and they're sharing information. You're standing in the corner, okay, maybe in the middle of the room, and you're just observing them. That is also a formative assessment. It's a feedback that you're collecting. When you see that some students are really contributing and there are some students who are not really contributing, they might know the answer, they might have that concept, but are they using the right words, or is there any difficulty? So some learner, some student in the classroom, in that peer group, you can make that student talk and listen to this particular person and respond. Or you can help the learner say, okay, please tell this. So what happens next? Okay, how do you say this? How do you say that? There are curricular activities based on all the subjects, whatever activities you conduct. So yes, it's a fact that all activities are actually part of teaching learning process, but you can also consider them as formative assessments. Okay, please remember, I'm not saying that you tomorrow when you're going back to school, you are telling your principal or your school leader, okay, now the whole definition of formative assessment has changed. It's not like that. Formative assessment, you can conduct unit tests, slip tests, whatever the pattern you have. Maybe in 2-3 months when you conduct a summative assessment, okay. For formative assessments, what you can do is maybe after a week when you teach some concept, you're checking a progress. That's it. It can be a surprise assessment, surprise quiz, okay, anything. Okay. If you want to do after 2 weeks, you can do that. If you want to do after a month, you can do that. If you are conducting some slip test, you can do that. So there are different methods. So what I'm saying is, in the classroom, when you're conducting activities and one particular day you decide to step back and see how well they are responding, participating in the activity and demonstrating or showing their knowledge, that part is also a formative assessment. Observations, anecdotal notes, quizzes, surveys, anything that you see on the screen, not just this, the list can be really big. It is up to us to decide what I'm considering a formative assessment for my feedback. If I know that some learners, some students are not participating or they're not able to communicate or talk about that concept properly, so next day when I go back to the classroom, I have to plan an activity or a lesson in a way that I can tell them, this is how you have to communicate. This is what the concept is, which you are not fully able to talk about. So what happens? You gave them the task, you observe them, and the next day or maybe on Monday when you go back, you give them the support that they require. So now, formative assessments are basically, yes, I totally agree. Thank you, other members, for saying in chat. Analyze, apply, yes, true. So there are different ways to do that. So it's totally up to you what you want to consider as formative assessment. And I'm telling you again, formative assessment do not mean pen and paper. It can be pen and paper. It can be your observation. It can be anything. Okay. We need to be open to make that process in the class so that you take feedback and then you change the strategy. Or with one online tool, they are struggling, okay, maybe to solve some problem, you are identifying another tool which is way more easier, okay, and then you're giving them and telling, use this and let's see how this is going to help you. So what you have done is you have observed, collected the feedback, and then came up with a proper strategy. So that is what the whole purpose of formative assessment is. Now you see all the formative assessments are based on yes, yes, thank you for saying that. So all the formative assessments are based on maybe performance rubric or performance indicators, which you can also make. And nowadays it's very easy for all of us, even if you want to use ChatGPT or any other artificial intelligence tool to give you performance metrics, performance indicators, you can just type the prompt and you will get the whole information. And then you just want to know how you are going to implement in the class. So whatever performance you're saying, see, the learning progress I am talking about, okay, you have to connect it to the performance, okay, the demonstration, the performance, okay, not rote learning, so that they go back home, memorize everything and come back and write everything on a piece of paper, or they tell you orally and you say, okay, they all understood. No, that's a wrong way of conducting it. So all the performance indicators or performance rubric that you make, it should have the learning styles, it should match the learning styles, and it should be flexible. You should not make it so rigid so that learners are getting some wrong feedback from us, or they are feeling discouraged, demotivated, or they feel maybe maths is not for me, science is not for me, I should not learn or study maths. And it should completely be based on the feedback mechanism. Okay, this is all about the formative. Now let us look at the summative assessments. Yes, totally agree with you. Now list of summative assessments, and please see here in the previous one you saw it is all about the learning progress, how the progress is. Now here it's all about the learning growth. Okay, so summative assessment you do at some interval, okay, not immediately, maybe after 2 months, 3 months, or end of the term. Okay, so to evaluate the learning growth at the end of a learning period to measure overall achievement. Okay, this is the purpose is whole totally different. So example of that is the traditional assessments. It can be pen and paper, unit tests, or slip tests. It could be a project assessment also. You ask them to work on some science project. Okay, maybe purification of water. So they made a whole model of it. One student who has really understood. There could be another student who has not who has not understood that really well. So maybe he or she will definitely try to do something. So based on the way they make the project and the whole process that they explain, because you have spent 1 month or maybe 15 days of time explaining the whole concept of water purification. So they have come up with a project, and based on that project, you are evaluating with some assessment ka rubric or marking scheme, whatever you say. Exhibition we conduct percentile based scoring. So in CBSE or any other board also, they have brought the percentile method, which completely based on the learning growth. So 3 months or one whole year of learning in just 2 to 3 hours of that standardized test. Okay, with which is backed by the marking scheme, and there is a blueprint for that, and teachers actually spend time analyzing the type of questions that they want to keep to know how much the child has learned. Okay, so the learning growth percentile based, I said, aptitude test, all the aptitude tests are based on the learning growth. Okay, for 15 years, or maybe some student who has spent 16 years in the education. Okay, and the child wants to go for, let's say, the entrance test exam or aptitude test exam. So the aptitude test is not just about the knowledge, but it's all about the personality. So 15 years of skill development, research, understanding, drilling, whatever that happened in the past 15 years, that assessment is going to evaluate what type of a person I am, whether I can pass or not, and that's another thing. And research presentations. So basically, summative assessments are based on the marking scheme, and there are different other patterns. I have just mentioned few here, but marking scheme checks the knowledge, the skills, the attitude, or the aptitude. This is the whole purpose, whole thing behind the summative assessments. Now let us look the purpose of assessment. Okay, it has to be to check and evaluate the knowledge, information of the learners on those certain concepts. And please remember this, the types of knowledge that I mentioned before. So 4 types of knowledge. First one is factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, and metacognition cognitive knowledge. So all this we check using assessment pattern or something like that. What happened again? I am so sorry. There was some technical glitch from my side. So, and thank you so much for being here. Can you hear me now? Are you able to see me? Please tell me in the chat. Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I think there was some technical problem from my end. I again logged out from Zoom. So, and I'm happy to see that all the members are here. So, yeah, thank you so much everybody for saying that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So we have another 15 minutes and we'll finish the session as soon as possible. So I was mentioning the purpose, the whole purpose, why we conduct assessment is to check the knowledge information, whatever it is, it is formative or summative or any other type of assessment. Understanding how well they have understood some concepts of science, maths, or anything, and how are they going to apply, analyze, or various other things. Okay, this is the whole purpose behind whatever assessment we conduct. Now let us see some blueprint of the assessment paper that we have. This is just a small example. I have not given the whole example. So whatever knowledge, understanding, and application, we try them to uh, teach. So we have, let's say, the type of assessment that we select. Either we are doing a formative one or a summative one, and the type of questions that we are keeping in that. If is it multiple choice questions, very short answers or short answers, problem solving or long answers, right? So many of us have gone through this during our B.Ed courses and B.Ed training for sure. And we also give them weightage. So this is just an example, like 25% or 30%. And we also check the difficulty level, the mastery level. Okay. So this is what basically we all do. So we all always have a blueprint. Okay. So whenever we design the question paper also, we need to remember the blueprint. Okay. I'm not just copying some questions from the book, changing some choice, I mean, words there, or maybe downloading some question papers from website and making some changes and giving it to them. So whatever question we keep, we always have to keep a pattern, a blueprint for that, and also remember the weightage that we are giving and what kind of question we are giving. Okay. So any standardized test or exam you see from CBSE or IGCSE or any other board you say, all the question papers are designed with proper approach, proper standard. Okay. Now for formative assessments, you can have your own metric. You can have your own blueprint because for formative assessment, like I said, it's all about the learning progress where you are seeing their knowledge, understanding by observing them, looking at their performance and the way they're defining it, they're telling it, they're showing or applying that knowledge in different situations. Okay. So this is it. Now, this is an important part. Bloom's taxonomy assessments. Many of us have gone through Bloom's taxonomy in our B.Ed courses. But what happens over a period of time as teachers, we have so many other duties to do, so we forget. But many of us also use Bloom's taxonomy to plan the lessons. Okay. So this particular blueprint, which I have shown you, if you do not refer Bloom's taxonomy, so we cannot identify what learners are learning and how well they are learning, the learning progress they are making. So whatever from the Bloom's taxonomy we refer to. So in Bloom's taxonomy, basically we have action verbs. All every level, there are 6 levels that you can see here from starting from remembering, that's a lower order thinking. Remember, understand, and apply. These three fall under lower order, and analyze, evaluate, and create. These three fall under higher order thinking. So I'm not explaining that in detail. Basically, you all know that. So each level has some certain verbs, particular verbs, and those are action verbs. So you have to know those action verbs are actually connected to the learning objective. When you say to create, to recall, so you are planning the whole learning session based on the learning objective. Okay, that has to be the proper approach, actually, the way we teach. And then that learning objective should lead to the learning outcome. Okay, let's say, for example, here you have these verbs. And please, whenever you look at Bloom's taxonomy, yeah, CCE, you have continuous and comprehensive assessment, anything you see. Okay, whenever you have to refer Bloom's taxonomy, not just to plan the lessons, but also the assessment and the teaching learning process. I mean, it is useful in many situations. Okay, now for assessment, you see all these levels that you see, there are some certain verbs. And I'm telling you honestly, whoever like Benjamin Bloom in many, I mean, decades back when he planned this, and many other psychologists, educational psychologists, they have done extensive research on this, and they have come up with the verbs that can fall under each category. So these are not just random verbs. Okay, like I think, searching or locating should come under remembering, not in evaluating. It is not like that. A well thought process has gone into this to, separate all the verbs that you see. Yes, there could be a situation where one verb can also fall under the other category also. That's totally different situation. So now these action verbs are teaching learning process. Let's say, for example, when you say finding. So in science or maths, whatever subject you teach, the concept you're teaching. So when you say to find an answer to this question, that means you are giving them a question, some set of questions, and you are asking them follow the whole process and find an answer. So it is a process. Similar to that, there are other verbs also, which I'm not explaining in detail. Let us understand this first. So example of Bloom's taxonomy assessment. So students will be able to differentiate between 2D and 3D shapes with 80% accuracy. So this is the learning objective from maths. And the topic is, shapes and angles or shapes. I have selected this only to give an example. So you see here, if this is the learning objective and I have highlighted this part to differentiate. So with differentiation, if you want to redesign the assessment as per the learner's styles and to match everyone's interest and needs and expectations, and you want to have that equity between all the learners. So you say, what you're doing is you are identifying what are the closely related action verbs, actions. So with differentiation, it's identify. Okay, how do you start differentiation? First you identify like what are the similarities and differences, right? You identify that. Categorize, that's another verb. Classify and distinguish. Okay, these are the verbs which are closely related to differentiate. All this, you can do with the other verbs also. And if you think that some verbs are not here, so as teachers and passionate teachers, when we want to cater to and try out different strategy or being innovative, so any verb that you pick, okay, and then you think what level of knowledge, higher order or lower order, okay, out of these three, what it falls under, like which category it falls under, which lower or higher order. If you say if it is falling under lower order, which level it can match to. So let's say whatever verb you pick, if it is matching or falling under the understanding level, so then what you can do is you just follow this whole process. Now, with whatever closely related action that you have, what is the desired outcome? So with identification, you say label is the most desirable outcome. Okay. So you gave them something and then the outcome that you want is the labeling. So what you're doing is, if you remember the action verb that you have picked, the verb, with that you have designed, planned a teaching learning process. Okay. And with that teaching learning process, you want an outcome. Maybe not immediately, maybe you want after a week or a month. It's totally up to you. Okay. So then when you evaluate the learners, maybe with formative assessment or summative assessment, you see whether now students are able to successfully, they can label or not. If that particular task is done by all the learners, that means you're teaching that concept and the desired outcome has been achieved, like you have achieved it. Similarly, with categorize, the desired outcome can be making different groups. There are so many things in front of the learner, and you are telling to categorize so that whatever falls under one category, he's making a group of that. Second category, there is a group for that, and there's a third category for that, right? Classify, sorting out, okay, and distinguishing is again differentiation. So this way, when you want to redesign the assessments, you have to first refer to Bloom's taxonomy, pick the right action verb, teach the learners in that particular way, whatever the action verb is. Let's say if you are selecting the action verb to be like to differentiate, but the learning process, the action is identifying. Instead of that, you have selected match the following, or let's say for an example, you are selecting a verb which is not closely related to the learning objective, that verb, okay, not closely related. So that means you have planned something, but actions are totally different. You have planned something for North Pole, but the teaching, the whole process is like South Pole. That is when many of us face the problems and challenges, not just to teach, but also when you want to conduct formative assessments or summative assessments, we do not get the proper result, and we get frustrated why this is not happening. So please remember this. And if you want to take a screenshot of this also, you can, for your own understanding. Whatever learning objective we have, identify the closely related action, and with that action, also identify what can be the outcome. Plan everything and then go to the class and teach. After this, next, how you are redesigning the assessments is know your learners first, whether they are visual learners, auditory learners, or kinesthetic learners. Know that first. It is very important. I'm not going to in depth about the different types of learners. Then also identify the right verbs, action verbs, whether you are picking from lower order or higher order. Please do not mix both the orders, okay, in one session, in one assessment. You have to have one particular verb, one action verb, one desired output. That's it. If there are two different things, that means in a 40-minute assessment or 40-minute session, you have learners to do something the first 20 minutes for one action and the second 20 minutes for another action. But if those action verbs are closely related, then that's a different case situation. Next is use a variety of tools, resources, and methods. There are now many tools, resources available. Download, take prints, or maybe change some of the things from the questions. Give it to learners and conduct assessment, formative, summative, anything that you want. Now, you can also try backward planning also. Let's say, for example, you start with the outcome first. This is what I want them to do. End of the day, like this is what I want. Then you choose the type of knowledge, whatever concepts you're teaching the learners, what type of knowledge it is it a factual knowledge or procedural knowledge or conceptual knowledge or metacognitive knowledge, what type of knowledge you're picking. Then you select the right teaching learning strategies, okay, based on the type of knowledge and the outcome that you have, and again align it with the learner styles. When you follow this particular pattern, that is when you see that you are able to cater to different learners also. Maybe when you have two groups of learners now, so what you're doing is for the formative assessments, okay, once maybe in a week or a month, you are observing and making the notes from all types of learners, because you have selected that kind of teaching learning strategy that is giving you feedback about all the learners. Okay, not just the learners, the students who are answering fast, but you have a different strategy for that. Okay, so everybody can answer, everybody can perform and show you that they're learning and they're progressing. And again, based on that, you see what type of knowledge that is you're catering, actually you're offering, and then whether it is aligned with the learners or not. This is the whole process of going to the classroom. Instead of only focusing on paper and pen assessments, we are actually like catering to all learners with our observations, with our journals, with reflection, with all the stuff that we have with this particular approach. Choosing the right verb, making the right observation, choosing the right type of knowledge, and offering our support, teaching learning support to the students. So that's it from me today. It's going to be 7 now, 1 hour. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Now, I would ask the members to please, if you have questions or anything, you can ask. Any clarification you want to make, you can make now. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on today. So many times I'm actually logging off. But yeah, now I think everyone is here. So what I'm gonna do is, please, I'm gonna share a Google form with you. I know many people have been asking the certificate of participation to be sent to their email addresses or to them. So I'm sending this in the chat. Like I said in the beginning, we will give the certificate of participation to the members who have joined our community. So if you want to join our community, before that, please fill this form and mention your name and the school you have joined us. And to join our WhatsApp community, I'm sharing the link right here, right now. So please join our WhatsApp community as well. Please use this form also, the one which I just shared right now. So mention your name. And if you are not able to find your name in that particular form, after that you spend 1 hour. So it's going to be difficult for us also to send out the certificates to the participants. So whoever is right now, I have shared the link. Please use the link. Just mention your full name and the name of the session you participated. And maybe on Monday or Tuesday, we will be sending the certificates to everybody. And like I said, we are planning to recognize the efforts also by all the other members who are joining again and again. So we are planning some good things for them. So if you join our webinars again in the coming weeks, coming months with consistency, there is also an opportunity where we would ask you also to take a session with us using our portal and everything to the other teachers. So you can also share your knowledge and expertise with other members, and they will also learn from you. It needs permission. Just a second, I'll check what's going on. It needs permission.
Um,
Just a second, I'll reshare the form. There must be some technical.
uh, I think it's restricted to only Keystone Group. I think you'll find it in the edit option.
I'll change that. Maybe I just forgot to. Just a second. Okay, everybody, I have changed the setting. So now you can use the same link to submit your names and mention your details. So, and I have also shared the link of our WhatsApp community. So please, or I'll just share this form again. So maybe, are you able to fill the form now? Can someone tell me? Or is it still asking for permission? This session's name you have to write, ma'am. Again, asking permission. Okay. Okay.
It's working fine now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing it again. So I have shared it again. Please check now. Thank you everybody for being here for this one whole hour. And I hope this session has been really insightful, because previously many people, who conduct the webinars or sessions on assessment, they emphasize more on the summative assessments. So in this webinar, I emphasize a lot on the formative. And now I would also would like to hear some feedback from the members. So anybody would like to use the microphone or turn on the video camera, you can turn it on, and then you can also like share your feedback also with us. That will also be an opportunity for us to learn something from you, and we'll plan our sessions in a better way. Anyone would like to say anything? This is the time. We'll wait for another 5 minutes and then we'll move to we'll end the session. And please join our WhatsApp community. I have shared the link in the chat itself. So, like I said, our webinar certificates will be shared in the WhatsApp community. Anyone would like to say anything? You can please raise your maybe hand raise emoji, or maybe you can turn on your microphone and talk. And I'm actually eager to listen to someone, your feedback, and learn something from you also.
Good evening, sir. So I have learned about no, not restricting the evaluation methodologies, and we have no, so many other options to evaluate no, for such children for evaluation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for saying that. We were emphasizing more on the formative part of the assessments, where with format, that formative assessment, we get the real-time feedback. Let's say if I give an example of cooking, like many of us know cooking and we cook different delicacies, dishes, right? So once we start cooking, what we do is we constantly check how well this whole process is going on. So that part is our cooking progress. Let's say, how is it going on? The whole half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours that we spend. But once the dish is ready, okay, then you give it to your family members, or if you're participating in Master Chef, so someone comes and they eat it, and then they eat it and they'll tell you whether it is really good or it needs some correction or changes. So what we have done is, the first time it's all about the process and progress, and the second one is the growth, like the final output. So I was also focusing a lot on this particular part, where whatever learning plan we have, lesson plan we have, we always use the action verbs, right, in the learning objectives. What we can do is, based on the learning objectives, whatever verb that we pick, so identify the closely related action. What kind of an action that you want as a learning process? Okay, so you are giving them identification, you're giving them tools, 2D and 3D tools, objects, and asking them to differentiate between the two, identify what is 2D and what is 3D. So end of the day, the output is what you're looking is, that they should be able to tell, yeah, this is a 2D object and this is a 3D object. So it can happen orally, you can ask them to like participate in some group activity. So you are seeing the way they're interacting, the way they're demonstrating their knowledge, speaking out their knowledge and information. Everything is part of that whole assessment process. The effective teachers, as we are, we need to remember to write it down somewhere with the name of the learner and what you have observed. And then based on that, you plan some next sessions. That's the whole process. The whole process changes. Anyone else would like to say anything? I would like to hear from other members now. Thank you, Ms. Jayanti, for saying that. This was your first session, and I'm happy that there is something that you found insightful in this webinar. Anyone else would like to say anything?